Well, guys, what's going on? Jake Thomas hosting another episode of Sick, Scared, and Stupid. Today's guest is someone you may know. You probably do know. He's got a pretty illustrious background in the world of athletics, sports, fitness, and overall just anatomy and physiology. To drop a pun on that, you might recognize him from a biopic featuring him. It's a story called Just a Kid from Fall River. He's also written a book, just coming back about perseverance, resilience, moving forward, called Dream Big, Never Quit, the Marc Megna story. He's the founder of the Marc Megna Method, the host of the Marc Megna podcast, the Megna Method podcast, make that, and one of the founders and co-owners of the Hospice of Fitness and Health in Miami, Anatomy. Former NFL athlete and superstar, loving husband and father. It's a lot of accolades. He's probably blushing and smiling a little bit now, but without further ado, Marc Megna.
I appreciate the intro. Little bit, certainly much, but thank you very much. And thank you for having me. It's good to see you again. We always have some great chats, and certainly most proud of being a father of all things and a husband. So it's good to see you, man. Let's chat.
Yeah,
What's
you
going
too,
on
man.
with you?
Oh, all well. Trying to stay young and die slow. Like we all are.
Yeah, for sure.
A funny thing. I've never told Marc this, but something that I knew and recognized and remember from the first time I met him to the last day that I saw him in person a few months ago, about a year ago now, in Miami, was when I first walked into Marc's place, Anatomy, in Miami Beach. Marc was twisting the dumbbells to face them all to be aligned properly in the rack to where the numbers were facing right side up, and somewhere this way, somewhere that way. I didn't know he was the owner at the time. I was just like, man, that guy's squared away. He's setting the numbers to read properly. I was like, I like this guy. I saw him finishing doing that and then picking up some trash on his way to the locker room, and I was like, no, I really like this guy, because other people had walked past it. He did, and he stopped and saw it. You're doing the same thing. The last day I was there and obviously having known you then, but I was just like, God, it set a standard for perception, but at the same time, once I got to know you, I was like, that's totally who this guy is, regardless if it's 4:00 in the morning when nobody else is in there when we're working out, or when it's late in the afternoon and early evening when you've already done, your whole round from all the locations, making sure everybody else is taken care of and accounted for, and you're still doing the same thing. Like, that's who you are, man. And from what I read about you, from what I watched about you, from what I've heard about you, from what other people say about you, it seems to be pretty much the standard. Where's that come from?
I appreciate that. Thank you very much. Well, first of all, thank you for even noticing. Most people, nowadays, Jake, I don't think people notice, or certainly don't do it for people to notice, but I don't think people notice or care. Where it comes from, probably my mom and my grandfather. My grandfather had a garage, and I remember it was like, he was so meticulous. Like, everything was like perfect. Like, one of those walls with all the screws and the wrenches and everything. And yeah. I know that was probably custom for like a, someone who's into engines and cars, but very modest house. It was probably like 1,100 square feet, if that. And his garage was impeccable, and he cleaned it all the time. I remember one time I moved a wrench and I put it back. I just didn't put it back properly. And he was like, who's in the garage? And I was like, there's no way. I mean, it wasn't me. He couldn't know from that. And that's exactly how he knew. But my mother was like that as well. And my mother used to say, it doesn't matter how much you have, but whatever you have, make sure you take care of it. That's the most important thing, Be grateful for what you have. So that's where it comes from.
Well, it definitely stuck out to me right away because, I've, as you have, graced plenty of gym floors and been to plenty of places, and you walk in and you're just like, God, this stuff's all out of rack and it's out of order and it's just messy. Yeah. And it's, what kind of, image does that show or carry to someone else? And it's like, I always think it's, leave it better than you found it kind of thing. And, your first impression is going to be the every impression. And that was a big one for me. And then secondly, you were verbally outgoing and friendly. It's also something that in gym culture is not always the standard. A lot of times, especially at smaller and more niche or upper echelon places, it's the exact opposite. Hi, welcome to blank. Like, don't look at
Mhm.
me, don't talk to me. I can't help you. It's
Yeah.
a very easy disposition to perceive, unfortunately. But
Hmm.
didn't know who you were, didn't know if you worked there, what you did there, that you owned it. I knew nothing. But you're like, hey man, what's going on? Good morning. How you doing? I was like, yeah, what's up, dude? Like shocked in a way of like, why are you talking to me? And I don't know if it's me being scarred from living in New York for so long and still being like, why is this guy talking to me?
Yeah.
But that's the truth. And then finding out through the grapevine who and this and that. And like, you have written everywhere, culture is everything at
Mhm.
anatomy. And that to me, I guess, is an echo of kind of that motto that culture is everything is that's like a foundational piece to
Mhm.
you. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So, um, it's interesting, by the way, I actually remember that. I remember when you walked in and I said hello and you kind of looked at me like I was crazy. About Obviously, I'm not picking on you, but it's certainly not the first time I've received that. That's what's how it's received most of the time.
Yeah.
But when I was young, I went to my first. I went to the boys' club. My grandfather first took me to the boys' club, and then he took me to the YMCA, and then I went to a place called Jay's Gym, which is I developed a lot of close friends there. But the first big industrial, like beautiful gym was a place called Bodybuilding Plus.
Mm,
And I remember going in there and they let me in. It's so funny. They obviously need to sell more memberships. And because I was underage, but they were like, no, sure, if he's well behaved and he trains. They basically told my mother, if he trains, then he can come in at a younger age. So my mother pulled out a paper bag and she said, look, this is a lot of money for us. So she bought me a 6-month membership and she said, you better use this every day. She paid and I said, I will, I promise I will. And my first training kind of came with it. It wasn't,
mm.
look, it wasn't like hardship, but we didn't have a ton of money. And my first trainer was a woman named Lisa Swidney, who was incredible, by the way. She was awesome. She was my first trainer. And she was just so happy and kind and just caring and welcoming. And that whole vibe of that club was like, it was packed. It was packed in the city. I'm from Fall River, Massachusetts, and it was just everyone was so cool. And listen, you had your standoffish type people, but that was
Sure.
super uncommon back then, as you know. I think we're kind of around the same age, and
Yeah.
like that, it's really like a standoffish kind of place and environment, and it's not exactly, hey, let's be cool to each other. It's like I'm using this machine, stay out of my way, don't talk to me. And to me, that always kind of bothered me. I was
Yeah.
thinking, had I not walked in that gym and they weren't kind and caring, who knows where I would have ended up,
Mm,
because that was like the foundation for the rest of my life. But not training in a gym, but that was my indoc to like kind people, right? After my family. And it was just like, I love that place. Like I couldn't wait to get there after school. I want to be around them. I wanted to be around Lisa. I wanted to be around the team there. There were like 4 or 5 guys there that were professional bodybuilders who looked at me like a little brother and would tell me what to do. If I had bad form, they would tell me. Um, and I remember there was one guy there who his name was Richie. And every time he saw me, he said, hey, your new nickname is D1. And I didn't even know what that meant for like 8 years. And he's like, you're going to be a Division 1 athlete. And I was like, why do you say that? He said, look around. There's no other kids in here.
mm.
And I was like, it sounds like a compliment, so thank you. But I still didn't know what it meant. Um, but anyway, to answer, long-winded answer, but to answer your question, like, it doesn't have to be confrontational. You've been in anatomy and you've been in thousands of gyms. You know, Jake, that people, like, they're going to be a part of something.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, they want to improve their health and wellness, but it speaks volumes to be a part of a community.
Yeah.
And that was the intention, not to, like, gyms are great. Like, of
Yeah.
course, I hear all kinds of people say they want a gym, but building a gym and building a community are two very different things. So,
Mm. Well said. Yeah. I say very similar thing in the sense that, you can work out anywhere. You don't even need the gym construct, right? I mean, equipment is
Correct.
equipment. You've done it with less, you've done it with more. We've
Yeah.
suffered, we've been in luxury. Like, it's the culture, the community, the ambiance, the energy, the sense of, camaraderie, teamsmanship, all the good things that make you just feel, I think, at the end of the day, welcome. And I
Hmm.
think that's a really powerful word,
Yeah.
especially in a place that isn't always received that way, or can
That's
have
right.
the perception to not be received that way. So it's important. You talked about, getting called D1 and starting training back then, for the long road ahead of preparation. That's a pretty good amount of time to start getting ready if didn't even know what D1 was at the time, and you're
Yeah.
maybe thinking about it or starting to read up on it, based on what these guys are telling you. And from a guy that said about himself, quote, as a child, I wasn't very athletic. Let's face it, I was never picked to play on any teams. I was lazy, very out of shape, and had the self-esteem of a wallflower. Ooh. How'd that guy go from where you were to going D1 to going to the NFL to going past that?
You really do your research, by the way. Um, I said this the other day. I spoke Thursday night at the University of Miami Business School,
Nice.
and awesome group of kids there.
Shout out to the Canes.
Yeah, and they, by the way, they've just the students in general, like so advanced. I can't even imagine being in that headspace at that age, but they are, and they're going to do very well. Um, so they asked me a similar question, and it was, "Did you always want to be a football player?" And the answer was, "I wanted to be athletic." But the reason I wanted to be athletic is because at all the holiday family events, you have cousins running around, all my aunts running around, my mom, and then all the men, my uncles and older cousins, are surrounding this TV and they're watching the Patriots.
Yeah.
And like, okay, the Red Sox, it's cool. The Celtics, it's cool. But for some reason, when the Patriots were on, like you couldn't talk to them. I just didn't understand when I was super young how they cared so much about those athletes.
Yeah.
It didn't register with me. And at the time, I was a very out of shape, as I said, low self esteem, introverted young man. And I was like, I don't understand why no one kind of talks to me, or at least that's the way it felt. And then, or respects me. And then I just knew like I have to be an athlete to get respect. Now, there's certainly other ways you don't have to be an athlete looking back, but that's what I
Yeah.
saw. That was like the clear route to respect. So because of all like the consolidated pressure from other kids, I just said, you know what? Here's the deal. I'm not going to school. I'm not going to school because like I don't want to deal with that every day. I
Mm.
just don't want to like at like 11, 12, 13. I'm not in a position to go face my fears. I was like, face your
Yeah.
fears. Like not at 12, at 13, you hide. You hide from your fears. And that's exactly what I did. So I told my mom, and my mother was never down to like let anyone miss school. Like we
Yeah.
never missed school. So I faked like an illness, and then I tried to continue to fake that illness. And then she called my grandfather to come over, and my grandfather came over. His name was Abe. He was actually my father's stepfather, who ironically cared more about us than like anyone. And he was like a legendary mentor man in our city. He
Mm.
came up to the bedroom and he said, "What's wrong with you?" I said, "I'm sick." And he said, "Okay, so I don't think you're sick, but I want to know what's going on." And I told him, I said, "Look, Grandpa, I don't want to go to school because I get picked on by the other kids and like they make fun of me." And it was like, it bothered me. Like, it's not comfortable for me. I don't need to go to school to have a good life. And I never forget what he said. He's like, you don't have to go to school to have a good life. That's true. But you kind of got to face the other kids to have a good life. He
Ooh.
says, you don't know what that means now, but you will someday. So he said, you're going to come with me. And I went with him. He took me to the boys club. And he took me to the weight room. He kind of showed me a few exercises. And he's like, he wasn't like a tough, he was the sweetest man in the world. And he wasn't tough on me, but he refused to let me stop and not finish. And the
Mm.
amount of work we did, I was like, why are we doing all this? Right. And I was super young. But at the end, actually, it felt good. I remember in the car ride home, he said, "How do you feel?" I said, "I felt good. I like that." He says, "Well, what did you like?" I said, "Well, I felt like, I did something good." And he said, "You did a lot of good, Mark." So the next day he comes to the house and he's like, "Is Mark ready?" And I'm like, "Where are we going?" He's like, "We're going to the gym." I said, "We went yesterday." He's like, "You have to go every day." I said, "Well, we're not going to go every day." He goes, "No, but you are going to go every day."
Mm.
So he took me to the gym again. And, there was a period there where I kind of didn't like going all the time. But then I started to feel good about what I was accomplishing.
Yeah.
I enjoyed, like, I'm doing something. I'm doing something real. Like, I'm being consistent. I just had a good feeling about what I was doing. And this is at like 12, 13 years old. And it just kind of took off. Went from a very chubby, obese young man, and my body started to change. And I started to, you have these markers. I want to bench the barbell plus tens, the barbell plus 25, the barbell plus plates, right? And then
Yeah.
it's 185, then it's 225, and started to be able to do pull-ups. And it made me feel like I was walking on water. It built my confidence tremendously. And it also built my confidence when other kids tried to be tough with me or bully me. And I didn't kind of allow that anymore. And it was like kind of the best tool ever. I know we probably talked about this before, Jake, but how many lessons do we learn in that small room, right? There's
Yeah.
so many lessons there. But that was the start of it.
It's true. The metaphors that take place in front of that. Um, I mean, overcoming adversity, leaning into discomfort, having to find courage, right? Like I like talking about courage because courage doesn't exist without fear, and fear, has to be the catalyst to find courage. Courage is, I define it as, identifying fear and moving forward in the face of or in spite of fear and still getting the job done. So like you got to be afraid to be courageous. And the only way you get it is by being afraid. So it's kind of this double-edged sword of like, well, I'd like to get the courage. It's like, well, like your grandfather said, well, you got to face those kids someday. You don't have to go to school, but you do have to face the kids. And it's like, yeah, the
Yeah.
real fear isn't the school. It's the other thing. But what a cool way to find courage. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I remember, reading about you grinding it out and getting further into school and picking up the football and different positions, finding your way on the field and starting to say, I want to practice more, I want to train more, I want to train harder. I'm trying to remember the coach you talked about that you're really training under, the first one that really kind of put you through the ropes of more extensive training than you were getting at practice, and you're there in the summertime, you were there at more after school. Like, when did it start to click for you, besides just for confidence and
Mm-hmm.
self-esteem, and like, hey, this is something I can maybe do, and like, oh gosh, I might have a chance to go do this in school, like the guys were calling me D1 back in the day. Maybe I actually do
Mm-hmm.
have a shot at doing this.
Yeah. So I first of all, when it was like the whole D1 thing, like I didn't, I had these dreams, but I didn't believe I could. I didn't have great self esteem, so I didn't kind of believe I could do that. But that was so far removed, Jake, from a goal. Like that was so far down the line. I just focused on like, what are we doing today?
Mm.
And the reason I can tell you that is because when we first had summer workouts for my high school Durfee football, I showed up, and I said this last night. It was with my wife. My wife's best friend has a son, and she told me, you know how they pick the captain for his baseball team, and I think he's 10 or 9. Whoever's the first one there is the captain. And I thought that was pretty interesting.
Yeah.
My mother would make me be there an hour and a half early. She's like, no, you have to go. You have to make sure you're on time. I
Yeah.
think that had something to do with free time for her. But regardless, I remember being there. And when the coach showed up, he's like, why are you here so early? And I remember saying my mom wanted me to be on time. And he said, that's good. And the coach they had just hired, he was probably 24, 25 years old. And it kind of went against all the principles of the school. And he was excited to be the coach. The first thing he did was he asked me if I was in shape, and I said, I think I'm in shape. He said, well, we're going to find out. So I guess like 40 kids show up for these workouts, and there was a little bit of excitement around the program. We go inside, and it's a hot summer day in Massachusetts. I certainly not like Miami, but it was hot. We were inside. He says, "Okay, this is what we're doing. We're going to run, certainly not customized programming for football back in the day, but we're going to run laps around this indoor track for 6 minutes. Push yourself." And I remember thinking, well, I mean, I'm certainly not going to beat any of these guys here, but I'm just going to push myself, see how I do. So we start, and I start running, and I realize that I already know that there's a lot of kids there that are way better athletes than me, but they're just not doing the activity. Like they're milking it. So I just start pumping my arms. I said, I think I can lap that kid. So I lapped one, then I lap another, then I lap another. And then I finished, and I was like, wow, I did good. I did good. Now, granted, they weren't pushing themselves hard, the other kids, but I just had this feeling like, that's okay. I just need to worry about what I'm doing and push myself. That was the first thing. 6 minutes went to 7, then 8. We ended on 12. And they were like, here we go. Megna's going to try to like push everyone. And like, I'm a nobody. And I'm thinking all of a sudden I'm getting this reputation like I'm actually pushing people. And I'm like, that made me feel good. And then on the football field, I spent a disgusting amount of time watching. I'm sure you remember these names, Jake. NFL Crunch Course, Big Block. You remember that?
Yeah.
It was a video,
Wow.
like a highlight video.
Wow.
Of
the clothes, man, in that video. The gear, amazing gear.
For sure. Like Lawrence Taylor,
Yeah.
Dick Butkus, Derek Thomas. I was like Mike Singletary.
Ronnie Lott, Steve Atwater.
Oh, yeah, Ronnie Lott. I met Ronnie Lott at football camp. I have a picture. I'll shoot it over to you. But it was – I was just obsessed with being like these guys. And I had Steve Sable from NFL Films narrating, and he was like, Mike's the focused mentality of Mike Singletary, the aggressive play of Dick Butkus, the athletic ability of Lawrence Taylor. I'm like, I'm going to have all those things, right? So I remember as I was a freshman, I remember watching Mike Singletary run downhill and tackle someone. And I remember thinking, I'm not so sure he was reading that play. I think he just took off and it worked out, right? Because if the play is a sweep right, he has to kind of run downhill and meet it. But he was like running before the ball was snapped. So I was thinking, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to do that next game. So right before the ball snapped, I see the A gap, and I'm like, right before the cadence, I start pumping my arms, and they hand the ball off, and I hit the kid in the mouth, and it was like a tackle for loss. So I did it like 4 times. And everyone's going crazy. Like, how is he doing that? I was completely guessing. But the coach from the other team yells at our coach and says, you got to tell that kid to stop. I was 55 as a freshman. I wasn't 54. And he said, tell number 55 to stop blitzing. I said, I'm not blitzing. I said, I'm reading the play. But I wasn't reading the play. And every time I hit the ball carrier, Jake, I was like, this is like a drug. Like, it feels so good to make these plays, right? Then I watched the video again, and then I saw Lawrence Taylor like punching the ball out. I said, that's what I'm going to do next game. I'm going to punch the ball out. So I was literally getting tips from watching TV and watching this film over and over. And then when I did it, my coach would be like, where did you see that? I said, Lawrence Taylor does it all the time. So he was like, looked at me like I was crazy, but that's how it started.
It makes me think of Days of Thunder, the movie with Tom Cruise.
Great movie.
Amazing. About NASCAR. Like, hey, where'd you learn how to drive? And he's like, ESPN.
That's right. That's right.
And they all start laughing. What? He's like, yeah, the coverage is phenomenal. You'd be surprised at what you can learn. And they're like, yeah, I don't think we want you to drive this car. And he's like, I won't make a fool out of you.
Yeah. You're not driving this car today.
Yeah.
I remember that.
But he's like, I know what I'm doing, and it's true, man. Like that's what we did. I can remember working at one of my first jobs still in high school. I was working at a soccer store, which were few and far between in the 90s anywhere. And watching World Cup 98 on VHS was like the only tape we had in the store. But I watched it 1,000 freaking times, England versus Argentina, the Netherlands versus Italy, whoever, Brazil and Germany, like these iconic late 90s games of death squad teams, with like everybody who's anybody, and just watching
Mm-hmm.
them over and over and over. Like,
Right, right.
how did he receive that pass? Okay, why did he feint to the right? Well, okay, is he kind of dipping his shoulder to cross that ball over like that? And then just trying to go repeat it, like either in practice or after practice or wherever I could. And people like, where are you trying to figure that out? I'm like, I'm trying to channel my inner, Paul Scholes on this thing. And based on how Michael Owen took this pass from David Beckham, blah, 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 blah. But like similar things, because there was no internet. There was no YouTube or anything else like that. It was like imagination, creativity, and belief,
That's right. That's
you know?
right.
And so to hear you be able to do that, then yeah, I mean, hey, what's wrong with blitzing, right? Is that illegal? Like,
Yeah,
don't
yeah.
get mad about it, buddy.
Here's
But you racked up some serious stats in high school and got noticed by some good schools. Maybe not as many as you wanted to, but I know you were surprised and happy to be spotlighted by the ones you did. And then what ended up making you want to join the arachnids in Richmond more than
Mhm,
anything? I know you talked about it, and Todd McShay definitely gives you a lot of praise from having
mhm.
played together with you. But
Yeah.
was it just the right fit? Was it the right group of people that were there? I know the coach had a huge influence on you
Yeah.
as well.
Well, the original reason there was a gentleman by the name of Nick Salmon from our hometown, and he played at the University of Massachusetts for a guy named Jim Reed. And he used to tell me stories like in middle school about Jim Reed. And kind of I loved hearing the stories. It didn't really register. And then as I started to improve in high school, he used to say, "I told Jim Reed about you. He's going to come see a game." And he kind of like never did. But I mean, down the road, we're getting there. But so Nick's kept hounding him. He's like, "Dude, you just got to see this guy, Marc Megna, play. You got to see him play." So finally, Coach Reed says, "Look, I'm going to be in Massachusetts. I'm scouting these other schools. I'll come by and watch him play." Now, I didn't know he was coming by that day. They told me, but I had never seen him. So I'm like, he's not coming. But it's my senior year, and I'm doing everything I can to get attention, like by trying to make plays and play well. And this is like this is in the documentary, but there's a play where a friend of mine, actually, his name is Garth Camara, he gets a sweep pass and he goes sweep right, and I was doing my thing where I was running downhill the opposite way, and the old lineman came out and cut me. I fell down, and I was like, man, that was a terrible read. But I got up and I started sprinting down the sidelines, and I'm like, it doesn't. I just wanted to give effort. Like, I'm like, when I got up and started running, I'm like, there's no way I'm getting him because Garth is very fast, and I just don't want to look lazy.
Yeah.
So as I'm sprinting downfield, the safety turns Garth back into pursuit. So now he cuts back to the middle of the field, which is where I am, and that's like 40 yards downfield. So I dive and I caught him. And Coach Reed was there, and he was in the stands. And I was like, I didn't know this, but there was a woman sitting there who worked for the school department, and he was like, "Wow, that was a great play." And she said, "I told him that's Marc Megna. You're going to see a lot of that if you stay." He goes, "Well, the truth is, I don't need to see any more." So after the game, he came down to the locker room and he said, "Hey, Marc, it's great to see you. He said, you're a great player. I want to offer you a full scholarship to the University of Richmond," which is super interesting because at that time he was the defensive coordinator, and he
Not
didn't
that
really
good.
have the runway to offer scholarships because they have to talk about them and then they decide. It's like a big meeting thing. So I'm like, when he shook my hand, Jake, I said, I got to ask my mom if that's okay. Because,
Nice.
and he said, "Marc, it's okay." Like, first of all, the scholarship thing was so shocking. I didn't know what it meant. And then I said, I asked my mom. She said, she's going to be happy. So I ran home because I live like 2 blocks away from the high school. And I said, "Mom, I got a scholarship for college." And she's like, "Yeah, that's nice." And I said, No, Mom, you didn't hear me. I got a scholarship for college." And she said, "Who told you that?" And I said, "There was a coach there from college, a school called the University of Richmond. He just offered me a scholarship." He said, was Coach Bogan there? That's the head coach. I said, yeah, he was there. So she calls him. She said, who told Mark that he's getting a scholarship? He said, Mrs. Megna, I was going to call you, but Coach Reed was there. He's an amazing coach from the University of Richmond. He thinks very highly of Mark, and he just offered him a scholarship. And she was kind of like, are you sure? Yeah. So, we both had like this moment where she was like, you're going to go to college. So the other part, Jake, is that when this guy came to our home, it's funny because I was just looking through like this scrapbook and my son was sitting on my lap and I was showing him pictures of Coach Reed like an hour ago. And I said, Mom, when Coach Reed comes up, right, can we meet him downstairs and walk him up the back entrance? Because I don't want him to see like the carpets in the hallway because everything was ripped up. So we tried to like keep an eye out for him, but sure enough, he came right up the front. And when he walked in the house, he put his hand out and he shook my hand. And the way he does it is he pulls you in to see if you have like strength. And he's a little guy, by the way. He's not a big guy, but he's like super powerful. And by the way, you know what his dream was before being a college football coach? I kid you not. Marine Corps drill instructor. That's what he wanted to do with his life. And this guy was every bit, when I talked about squared away, oh my God, like starch shirts, pleats, everything. It was unbelievable.
Love it.
He's sitting in my living room and he's giving this speech to my mom. Now, I know Coach Reed is such an overachiever. Like he just wants tough, gritty, passionate kids. He's given my mom this dissertation, like, it's not about football, it's about education and developing men. Like, first of all, there was no other schools that wanted me. And we were sold the second he showed up. I was going there. When he left, my mother said, I want to go play for him because he had so much energy and he cared so much. And he knew the situation we were in. My mom's a single mom raising 2 boys, handful of jobs. And I didn't care about the school. I cared about playing for someone who cared about me. And this guy cared about every single student athlete, and it was amazing. And the rest is history. So it was amazing.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, that's awesome. Really appreciate your honesty and openness to tell that, man. That's the real deal. It's raw. I made my decision to enlist on a similar kind of seesaw. I actually went into the Navy recruiting office first. My uncle served on the teams. And so I was like, I'm going to go to the SEALs. That's what I'm going to do. Go to Buds. Sure, right. I'm going to be like my uncle. Didn't have family pressure, but that was just what I thought. I walked into the recruiting office, and when the guy came to shake my hand, he just gave me kind of a, hey, what's going on kind of handshake, not like a formal, traditional, like break my hand handshake. And it really irked me. I didn't say anything. I didn't show any kind of reaction to it. But I was just like, cool, thanks, appreciate it. Yeah, I'll come back to you guys in a minute. I'm just going to, finish up some stuff outside real fast. And I just went right down the hall to the Marine Corps office and walked in, same thing. The guy's quintessential poster boy, pleated, squared away, starched to hell. And he's like, he puts his hand out. He's like, what's going on, hard charger? And just like breaks my hand with the most perfect, firm handshake. And I was like, this is where I'm going. So like the fate of one of these places is going to get me.
Right.
And I based the decision off of the handshake. And similarly to you, to pick up on those traits of, whether you call them leadership principles, personality qualities, character, whatever, but how impactful that can be on someone to have like a lasting impression enough for you to be able to say, yeah, I'm going here regardless. It doesn't matter about the university. It's a matter about the people I want to play for, the guy I want to play for, who I want to belong with. And they took care of you, man. I read about, the homesickness you had being away, obviously thinking about your mom and your brother and what was going on and having to focus on football and starting to have to decide on hard things like, getting almost permission, so to speak, from your mother to like, hey, keep your head there, keep your focus there. Like, we're good here. My mother was a single mom also with my brother and I, and having, being away and deployed when they're back home or she's back with him and thinking about like, keep your focus there. We're okay over here. What's that got to be like growing through that phase and then realizing like, hey, this might go past college, once you started to get the whiff of like, okay, we might be headed to the NFL, like what's that
Yeah.
separation anxiety like and juggling between a career and a family?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Well, in college, it was like the perfect storm of like everything that could possibly go wrong. Like school, the high school I was at, I wasn't really focused on academics. Like it's not that I didn't care. I did care. I just didn't care the way I should, and I didn't apply
Mm,
myself. So that means when I showed up to college, I was beyond overwhelmed. I mean, it was a barrage of reading and by the way, a lot of the grades were, can you stand up and address the class and just create a compelling argument for whatever you think? And now, like I enjoy stuff like that,
yeah.
but I'm 47. Like at like 19, 18, 19, I hope they don't pick on me. Like, I hope I don't
Mm-hmm.
have to talk.
Mm-hmm.
And I was class president at my high school, but I didn't have to talk to people. I just, I had to do different things and a few conversations. Anyway, so it was struggling academically. Coach Reed, who was the defensive coordinator, he went to the University of Richmond because they said, our head coach is leaving. When he leaves, you'll get the head coaching job. Well, when Coach Reed got there, they went from a losing program to a winning program, and the
Mm.
defense played spectacular. So the head coach is like, I'm not leaving. This is great. So Coach Reed was like, okay, I'm going to go then. He left. He went to Boston College, and Richmond lost again. And that was my freshman year. And I was thinking, the only reason I'm here is because of Coach Reed, and he left. So I'm like, this is a nightmare.
Mm.
And I'm not playing. I'm getting redshirted. I'm from the North, which is okay if Coach Reed's the head coach because he's a North guy. But now I'm from the North on a team, and everyone's from the South.
Mm.
And they're like, who's this Yankee? Like, why does he think he's going to play here? And I'm like, I hate everyone, right? So I call my mom, and I'm like, this isn't the best place for me. Coach Reed's not here. And, you know, I've talked about this a lot, but she basically was like, listen to me whine and complain. And then she said, if you think like there's anything better than what you're going through here, like you're out of your mind. Like you
Mm.
need to like stick this out and do the best you can. And my mother wasn't like, she didn't give me a Vince Lombardi speech, but she was just like, everything you've ever done in your life, it works out because you just do your best. So just push yourself and do your best. You're just as good as anyone there. You just got to do it every day, Mark, and just do your best. If you go out there and do your best and push yourself like you always have, it'll work out.
Mm.
So I did that. Richmond lost. We had a bad record. They went out, got Coach Reed. They brought him back. And I'm like, Coach Reed's back. This is amazing. I'm going to be a linebacker here. I'm going to play in the NFL. This is going to be great. Like the first practice, Coach Reed's back. He gives this incredible speech. He said, this is going to be very challenging, and most of you will not like it. It was kind of like the Dion speech. Like I got Dion 30 years ago, right?
Love it.
He was like,
Shout out Coach Prime.
yeah, he's like, if you want to win, you want to be a part of something special, he's like, follow me. So we have this first day where he puts the tight ends over here, the DBs over here, the linemen over here. And he looks at me, he goes, Mark, you go stand with the defensive lineman. I'm all right. I go, I run over there and we do all our drills. And I'm like, wow, these guys are big.
Mm.
And then after practice, I'm like, Coach, tomorrow I go back with the linebackers. He goes, no, you're a defensive lineman. And I'm like, I weigh 219 pounds.
Yeah.
Like I'm trying to put weight on. He's like, I can't be a defensive lineman, Coach. He goes, why not? I said, Coach, I'm a linebacker. He goes, you will be an amazing defensive lineman. You have to trust me. Get out of my office. So So all of a sudden, I went from being a linebacker, an outside and inside linebacker, to being a one technique, which is a nose guard, and a defensive tackle, which is a three technique. And I'm thinking, this is rough. Like I'm
Mm.
getting double teamed, and they're rail
100 pounds
splitters. These
more.
guys are like 290, 310. They're big, and I got to put weight on. So I played my freshman year probably like 225 pounds, 230. My sophomore, and I got a little stronger over the years, and I started to figure it out. What I never mentioned is the guy who was the defensive line coach was a certified lunatic, like lunatic. He had more off the field problems like later on,
Mm.
but he took kids that like no one wanted and turned them into like all conference, all Americans, kids who played in the NFL. And but it was, I'm telling you, Jake, if you ask anyone in college who played for him or the NFL, they will say, oof, lunatic. But he was like the music teacher in Whiplash. Like he really, like he would make you hate him in football, and he used that as a superpower.
Mm.
Like he was so enraged that you know what it's like. Like
Yeah.
that's
You
it's not
stay
normal.
mad at him. You can't get mad at, you don't
Yeah,
feel being tired.
yeah, exactly. It's not normal, but it works.
Yeah.
Ironically, he's the defensive line coach for the last 4 years for the Kansas City Chiefs. So he trains Chris Jones, who
Yeah.
I got to work with, and he literally took a kid who never played defensive line, started him as a redshirt freshman. I started 45 games at that position, and made me an all-conference player, a three-time All-American, and an NFL draft choice just by doing exactly what he said. And it was like he was so smart. He was so smart, and he would say, "Look, pay attention to the guard." He said, "If he lines up half a foot back, you know what to do." And
Mm.
he it was just like clockwork, Jake. And our defense was really, really, it was fun. It was a lot of fun, but all because of Coach Reed and Coach Cullen.
And the right people at the right time, huh?
Yeah, yeah,
Yes, that's awesome. So you're about to get drafted. You're getting ready to get drafted. You
yeah,
know it's coming.
yeah,
The anxiety's got to be there, the excitement, the butterflies, all that stuff.
yeah,
Like
yeah.
when did the self-esteem woes kick off and the confidence, like I can do this, really like
Mm-hmm.
wave in? Was
Mm-hmm.
it still with you in the sense of like, am I going to be good enough,
Mm-hmm.
for the NFL, or are you like ready to kick the door in, like I'm ready to do this now? Like
Yeah,
they're lucky to have me.
yeah. I think there's like phases of that. Like you get over certain things, and in the uh, in the in the book and in the documentary, they talk about like I would get all these magazines. A woman who worked basically in a magazine store gave me these magazines when I was a kid, and it was like hundreds of sports magazines,
Yeah.
and it was like the college football preview, and I would put the pictures all over the wall, and I could tell you, I'm telling you, at the time, I swear I could tell you every person on the Notre Dame football team, every starter, Michael Stonebreaker, Des, not Des Bryant, Bryant Young, Chris Zorich, Todd Light, all of them. And I wanted to be like them. And I was like, what I noticed, I studied the players, but what I noticed was if you're in the magazine as a preseason All-American, that's a big deal.
Yeah.
And even more specifically, they ranked like the top 10 guys at each position. And I was like, someday I'm going to be on that list. Someday I'm going to be number one. And before my senior year, I went to Barnes & Noble, and there was a sporting news magazine with a running back from Notre Dame on the cover. And I flipped. They have each division broken down. So I flipped to like the back, Division 1 AA.
Who is it? Who is it? Bettis?
No, he was wearing number 23. So it was I think Bettis was like me, like my years, or before me. A
Yeah.
little bit, a couple
It
years
wouldn't have
before
been
me.
Brown. It wouldn't have been Brown.
It wasn't, no, it wasn't Brown, but he was wearing number 23. I have the magazine somewhere close, so I'll check it.
Cool.
But anyway, I went to that magazine store like every week in the summer. And I was like, do you guys have the sporting news? And the guy goes, next week. And then I show up next week. Do you have it next week? And I'm like, guys, right? So I show up there. This is what I'm doing on a Sunday. Like I
Yeah.
train every day. And I get to Barnes & Noble. I see it. I'm super excited. I open it up and I look to the back and I see Division I AA, top players at each position. And the number one defensive lineman in the country was Marc Megna. And I was like just staring at it like, I can't believe this is real. Like, and I was so overwhelmed with joy that I started crying. And there was a woman next to me who's like, she's reading a magazine. She probably had to be 56 years old. And she comes over and she's like, are you okay, Sonny? And I said, oh, I'm okay. I'm okay. I'm just really happy. And I couldn't believe it. I said, because the thing is, I was never recognized for the hard work. Like, he's not tall enough. He's not fast enough. He's not, the story. That's how it goes. It's all the same stuff. But finally, I'm like, I knew that if I made X number of tackles, X number of sacks, it was like a mathematical equation.
Yeah.
They can't ignore me. They just can't ignore me. Yeah. Right. So I'm like, I'm the best defensive lineman in the whole country in this division. And I don't know what that means, but it means something, right?
Yeah.
It's something. So I was like, now I have to go out and outdo my previous year's numbers, right? I need to do that. And that was like, this isn't like fantasy anymore, Jake. Like, this is real. Like, other people are qualifying it. It's like, and people say, he's not that smart. Well, if you get like a 1600 on the SAT, you're smart, right? Yeah. Which I didn't get, by the way, but I'm just trying to prove a point. But it's like, you can't tell me. It's like, that's why I like things that are quantifiable.
The merit is there.
Yeah. Like if we run a race and you cross the finish line first, you're better. Yep. You are better. Yep. Like the guy can say, oh, he's not that good. He's the best player in the country.
Yep.
And why is that? Because he has twice as many sacks. He's got 30 tackles for loss. He's a nose guard and he has 120 tackles. There's a reason for that, right? Yeah. So that was like a big, big thing. But when you get drafted and you go play in the NFL, you realize that you may be the best in the country at that position. But number one, I was playing a different position. And number two, I was like, I felt great about all the college guys, but the college guys, like 90% of them aren't going to make it.
Yeah.
And then now you're playing with Marvin Jones, Mo Lewis, James Ferrier, all these guys who are like legit first round draft choices.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I've never saw a 6'4", 270, 80-pound linebacker before. I never saw anything like that. And I was like, I can't believe how big Mo is. He's so big. He's bigger than the DNs. And he could run. And I was like, holy moly, that's what a first-round draft choice looks like. So there's layers of it.
Yeah, it makes me think of like Levon Kirkland and those guys back in the day. God, man, that was a death squad. That 3-4, gosh. Yeah, man, that's, when you're talking about the I don't call it validation, but the quantifiable, undeniability of that. Like, I know you know this from going to castings and stuff in the past for jobs and for talent work. Mm-hmm. Hey, we're looking for these features, this age group, this complexion, this height. It's like, oh, he fits the bill perfectly. And you walk in, like, dude, they're looking for me. This is great. And then you go in there and you don't get the call back. And you're like, that's weird. And then they end up taking a guy that looks nothing like what was described, or it's a female, or it's something just completely different than what was asked for. And you're like, what the heck? Like, I was perfect for it. Well, we changed our mind. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
But then when you go into the jobs where it's based on merit and performance, and it's, all right, we're going to start off with, 8-count bodybuilders until you pass out. Oh, okay. So I just don't have to quit, and like I'll basically get the job, or I'll, put myself in the candidacy to likely be picked. Perfect. Run from here to there, like you said, with distance measurable. Perfect.
Right.
But when it comes to being, subjective, so I can imagine what that must have been like to see your name up there. It's like I'm thinking of
Yeah.
the scene in Rudy when he finally gets the acceptance
Oh
letter and
yeah.
he's just like, oh thank God,
Yeah.
like so like overcome with the success, but emotion and gratitude and not disbelief, but just like I knew it. I
Yeah.
knew it and it's real. And now I'm holding the
Well,
paper and you're like,
Jake, that's exactly what it was. Like that's exactly what it was. Like, sometimes like, you think you're something. We've all gone through this. Every person listening has gone through this. I know you've gone through it, but you'd be you wouldn't be, but it's shocking how many people will tell you you're not good enough.
mm,
It's like I just don't understand why people relish in telling other people they're not good enough.
mm,
Now, it's okay to tell people the work you're doing now isn't good enough, but if you apply yourself and do this and this and this, I'm all about that. That's
yeah,
cool. I'm a grown up. I'm a man. I can take that, but it's just shocking how people go, that's not his thing. He doesn't do this, and he's not. It's like, who the f are you to have that conversation? Like, who
yeah,
are you? Like the amount of people that will tell you you're not good enough because they're trying to, if they couldn't do it, they want to make sure you can't do it. And
totally.
it's like I loathe that. And I can spot that person from a mile away. And I just said, I gotta have a boundary with this person. I do not want to be around them.
Yeah.
I am not like them. That's not my kind of guy. I have nothing in common. Like I hate that. And like we can gaslight ourselves, right?
Yeah.
It's like, no, maybe I'm not good enough.
Oh yeah.
Now, it's a key attribute to be able to recognize your flaws and weaknesses and the stuff you do suck at. Yeah,
Yeah.
it is. But at the same time, like I've seen people with no degree, no masters, no business school do very well.
Yeah.
Like very well. And I credit people who have done all those things. I went to school. I was working to do the masters, but it's possible. You just have to bleed to do it, whatever it is, whatever it is. And I know you know that very well. So it's, but stay away from those people. I guess that's the message.
Anchors or rudders, your friends will promote you. They'll ask questions. They'll be interested.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody else is it's condemnation. And it's like, okay, well, it's the quick divide of being able to tell who's your fans and who's your foes.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think a lot of it comes from disbelief, self scrutiny of people or self loathing or,
Mm-hmm.
disbelief in themselves and the inability of I can't achieve it. Like, why could somebody else? Or if I couldn't do it under these constraints or,
Mm-hmm.
why could he? I'm better than him. All that. And
Absolutely.
that's truth. That's inner dialogue. But yeah, man. So you get there, you see all these studs around you. You came from being number one on the list, and now you're around a bunch of other guys that were number one on the list too,
That's
or
right.
on
Yeah,
other lists. And they were number ones above that, and like
that's
you're in the
right.
top 1% of 1% of athletes now, and you're with your beloved New England Patriots. Hometown
Yeah,
boy, like playing for the
yeah,
Pats. Like that's got to be you're walking in living the dream, and you're meeting
yeah,
Belichick and you're around all the like you named some of the standouts already. It's like, dude, what are you thinking at that point? Like, is it like
yeah.
I'm here to work or I'm here to like not try to be so starstruck or like how do you balance that out?
Well, I think that I was drafted by the Jets. Any team I went to first, I firmly believe I would have got cut.
Mm,
I just believe that because I wasn't ready for it. Like I didn't understand what it's like in the NFL. Of course, they value hard work, but you know what they value more than anything? Do not make a mistake.
mm,
Do not make a mistake. Know exactly what you're supposed to do at all times. You can certainly make a mistake. Maybe you can make two, but you can't make three. You can't make three because if you make three, you don't know what you're doing, and you're a
mm.
liability. In games, Al Pacino, Game of Inches, but
Oh yeah.
if you cost a team a game, that could be the game to get you in the playoffs. That's millions and millions and millions of dollars, and they don't play with that stuff. So with the Jets, I just didn't do enough to show like I'm going to add great value to this team. I just didn't. And I knew it. I'm like, you know what? It's 50-50. I could see why they would keep me, but I could also see why they would let me go. The other day, I was telling someone this, and I was attributing it to what we do at Anatomy, but I was like the last guy cut on the final day.
This is with
And
Rex or with Herm?
this is what? No, this was with the head coach was Al no, the head coach was Bill Parcells.
Parcells, nice.
So, but Parcells didn't cut anyone.
Mm.
He may cut you if he's upset at you, but Mike Tannenbaum, the head of player personnel,
Yeah.
I think he's somewhere. I know he's somewhere else now. I'm not sure where.
Yeah, he's at ESPN.
Yeah. So I go in Mike's office and he says, "Here's why we're letting you go. Hope you catch on with another team." And I said, "All right, thank you." I'm not really emotional in there. I'm just like, whatever. Of course, it upsets me, but as I'm walking out, Tannenbaum says, "Hey, Coach Belichick wants to talk to you." Because at the time, Belichick was the coordinator for the Jets.
Mm.
So I'm like, and Belichick wasn't who he is today. But he still got great respect. But he liked me. I knew he liked me because he was working with me in between practices during training camp. What he was doing was he would take me aside, show me how to like stutter and then blast a running back on a blitz or something. And I was doing like private work with Belichick in between practices. And I knew even at that time that he gets off on small school guys making it. I just knew that. And I sit down in his office. I've already been cut. And he says, "Look, you obviously don't have enough reps at linebacker." He says, "You played linebacker in high school, but you haven't played it in like 5 years. So you need reps. Maybe you go to NFL Europe. But if you can catch on with another team, play special teams, and get some experience, I think you can add great value to a team. So I wanted to tell you, don't give up, keep working." And, it's funny because all the things you hear about Belichick, he's not personable, he doesn't care, he's like cutthroat, he's cold. The complete opposite. So when he told me that, I was like, I wonder how many guys he calls in there, right? So I packed by the way, my car was already packed and I just had a feeling. And as I'm driving, I pull over and I'm emotional and I start crying. And then I get a call from my agent. His name is Jack Mueller. They call him Captain Jack. And he represented all like the popular Northeast guys like Doug Flutie, Rob Conrad,
Nice.
the Rocket Ishmael brothers.
Oh, nice.
And he says, "Where are you going?" I said, "I'm driving to the University of Richmond." He goes, "From New York?" I said, "Yeah." He goes, "You got to turn around because the Patriots are going to pick you up tomorrow."
Heyo.
And I was like, "What do you mean?" He's like, "The Patriots are going to pick you up tomorrow." I said, "Jack, if you're fucking with me," I said, "please." And he's like, I would never say that. I would never do that. Yeah, I'm telling you, they're going to pick you up. I said, "Okay." So I drove there. And the second I walked in, I saw Pete Carroll. He shook my hand and he says, "Welcome to the New England Patriots." They signed me to a contract. I put me on the practice squad immediately. I did all the things I needed to do, earned my way onto the roster, played special teams, went to NFL Europe. But right before I went to NFL Europe, Pete Carroll out, Bill Belichick in.
Yep.
So he's like, "It's good to see you." And I'm like, "Hey, coach, it's good to see you too." He's like, "I want you to go to Europe. I think you need those reps we talked about. And I want you to like set the tone out there and do a great job because we expect you to be ready when you come back." I said, "Yes, sir." I played for the Barcelona Dragons, came back, had a great camp, played for the Patriots. And halfway through, I got released by the Patriots, went to the Cincinnati Bengals, played for the Bengals for several games. Listen to this. I played for the Bengals against the Patriots in Foxborough. We had like 5 receivers go down, so they needed a receiver. So they let 2 linebackers go. I was one of them. And the Cincinnati Bengals coach says, "Don't go anywhere because we're going to pick you back up after we get these receivers." And I said, if I'm on waivers, the Patriots are going to pick me up. I know that because they already told me that. And I didn't want to go back to the Patriots because I was playing infield with the Bengals.
Mm.
And sure enough, the Patriots picked me back up. I walk right back in that building. And the next week on Monday Night Football, I played for the Patriots against Kansas City Chiefs.
Mm.
And when I walked in, Robert Kraft goes, he goes, Marc, he goes, back where you belong. I started laughing. I said, thank you, Mr. Kraft. I really appreciate another opportunity. And he goes, this is going to be fun. And I was like, this is wild, wild. But it was quite an experience because obviously because I was from there, and there's a lot of legendary players who were not only like hard on me, but they're also kind to me. And
Mm.
that's what made that culture special. No mistakes, and do what you're supposed to do. I know they say do your job, but they take it very seriously. And that's why, and the Dynasty, did you watch it all?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
The towel,
Yeah.
wringing out the towel.
Yeah. Get every last drop out.
Ooh, that was putting it nicely.
Brewski talking about that.
Oh yeah. Teddy was very hard on everyone. Very hard on everyone. It was a ride. It was a ride.
Man. When you're talking about that effort rundown that you did in high school when you got
Yeah.
blocked and had to pick yourself up and say, I don't know if I'm going to catch this guy, but I'm going to give it a shot and try to. It reminds me of the Don Beebe Leon Lett, playing that's in that Bills Cowboys Super Bowl where it's like, I don't remember that game at all, but I'll never forget that play.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. And by the way, Leon Lett will never forget that either.
Yeah. I mean, I don't remember that. I mean, I was pretty young, but watching it, but I'll never forget that play and just being like, man, Don Beebe is the man,
Yeah.
like that's somebody that I've won on my team forever.
Yeah.
One of the cool chapters in your book and life story, amongst the other things, the one that really stood out to me, honestly, man, was when you went to Canada, because the way you talked about Montreal and the league and the way the city, and especially your friend at the restaurant kind
Yeah.
of, I don't want to say took you in, but like obviously you earned everything you got, but you just seemed to be so warm and genuine, and familial in the way you talked about him and them, and like he and his girlfriend or his wife, I forget who, but just all the people you said that you met there and hung out with. It sounded like it was, I mean, one of the best things that ever happened to you in your life.
Yeah. I mean, I'll tell you an interesting story that's going to link up with your story. When the NFL when I was a free agent in the NFL, I pretty much like in my mind kind of like hung it up, and I was coaching at the University of Richmond, which was great because I had this pipe dream of being a Navy SEAL.
Mm.
So what I did every day was I jumped in the pool and I swam for like 2 hours before meetings in the morning by myself in the pool. And if anyone ever has to do pool work early in the morning, there's like this psychological barrier to jumping in the water
Yeah.
early in the morning
Yeah.
by yourself and having to hold your breath. And I got down to like, I must have been like almost 200 pounds or almost below. And I was weighing 240, 245.
Yeah. Shredded.
And yeah, I mean, dude, I could run all day. I was just reps, 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 and coaching. And then I got a call from a guy by the name of Jim Pop, who was the general manager for the Montreal Alouettes. And he said, we have your rights, and we'd like you to come up here and give it a shot. We think you could be a great defensive lineman up here, a pass rusher. And I was like, he didn't say like D lineman, he was like edge rusher. And I just liked the way that sounded. And I was like, the only thing I know about Canada was Doug Flutie went up there and he loved it. And my agent, Jack Mueller, had a couple guys that went up there and they loved it. So I'm like, man, I got to put some weight back on. So I started lifting, eating. I got up to about 238. And then I worked my way up to 245. I show up to camp there and I'm in a room and I'm like, I can't believe this is like the whole defense. Like there's only 20 guys in this room. And they're like, this is the defensive line room. And I'm like, there's 20 guys here. and I was learning about rosters. They only keep like, I think it's 11, 11. I think they have like, I don't know how, I can't remember, Jake, but they only keep like, I think it was one or two. They keep four defensive linemen,
Mm.
four, and they're only keeping two Americans. There's 18 Americans in that room, and I'm absolutely the smallest one. And I'm thinking, I was so upset. I called my agent, who is now Jack
What did
Mueller
you
went to
do
work.
this for?
Yeah, I said, why would you send me up here? Do you know how many defensive linemen are here? And he gives me the whole, oh, Mark, you're the best one though. And I'm like, no, bro. I said,
You're not in the room, dude.
yeah. I said, I started naming names. I'm like, this guy played for Buffalo. This guy played for the Chargers. This guy played for the Giants. And he's like, yeah, but they can't run, And I'm like, I said, you're delusional, bro. I said, I appreciate the compliment, but this is crazy. So I said, you know what? You're here. Just fucking go all out. Do everything
Mm,
you can.
mm.
So I'm doing that. And the interesting thing was we got a new coach. Montreal got a new coach. Montreal was good every year, but they could never win it. The last time they won a Grey Cup championship, they had a head coach named Marv Levy, who was from Buffalo. Remember him? He
Yeah,
coached
absolutely.
Montreal.
The four
That's
Pete
right.
Super Bowl.
That's right. And they won it in 1977. Well, they got rid of
Mm.
their coach and they had a new coach who his name was Donnie Matthews. And Don Matthews was a Marine,
Huh?
and he was known for, at the time, he was probably like 56 years old. He had girlfriends like 25, 26 showing up to practice. And we're like, who is this cowboy, man? This guy's like a wild man. And they were like very diverse. And I'm like, Coach Matthews is like a lunatic. And then I started to think, like, he's doing things just to spite people, right? And we've had this one game. We were playing at Hamilton, and I was playing left defensive end. And we had a linebacker from Ohio State named Kevin Johnson. We call him KJ, who was a certified lunatic. And I watched film. They had this one play, the counted tray, where they pull front side and backside guard. And I saw it immediately, and I sprinted through the inside leg of the guard and just piled everything up. KJ came over the top, hit it in the mouth, and it looked like a textbook play. And they were like, "Oh my God, did you see what Megna did on that play?" And I was thinking, it was like complete luck. I pretty much fell down, but it looked really good. And I was like, 3 plays later, I sacked the quarterback, and I was like, "Oh my God!" I'm having a great game, right? I make the team. The defensive line coach comes up to me. He goes, "You're our starting left defensive end," and I was like, "I can't believe I made this team." I said, "I can't believe it," right? And we won 18 games, ran the table, went to the Grey Cup, won for the first time in 26 years, and I was thinking, this is the greatest city I've ever been in my life. And through the whole time, don't forget, I'm in Montreal.
Yeah.
They had a party for the Grey Cup champion Alouettes. There was 500,000 people downtown where they canceled school. They canceled school in the greater Montreal area so kids could go to the parade. And I was thinking, I'm never leaving this place.
That's awesome.
But I didn't even want to go. That's the irony.
Yeah.
Facing your fears, I didn't even want to go.
Yeah.
And it was
Even getting there and saying, why am I here?
right. I mean, it was just so many lessons there, Jake. And that gentleman at the restaurant, his name is Max.
Yeah.
He was one of my groomsmen in my wedding.
Max.
And he stayed at my house recently when he visited Miami. And he's one of my lifelong friends. I talk to him 3 times a week. And it was just like an epic journey, adventure. Shout out to the people from Montreal. It was great.
That's so cool, man. Yeah, same in Marc's book and in the documentary. It's really telling to how much you got out of it. Like you can really just read the words and understand. And same thing in the doc to see, especially with the friendship with Max in there at the restaurant and everything else. It just you had a real glow about you, and something was like, man, I'm really glad I made this decision. Kind of thing going on. So Grey Cup champion now, put that on the board of accomplishments and accolades, and now you're finding your way to South Florida, of
Yeah.
all places, and you kind of run into a new challenge of what am I supposed to do? Because
Mm.
football shelf life has run out, or
Yeah.
I'm not getting back in the league, or like obviously that's a huge thing to face, a huge reality to face
Yeah.
of like, damn, it's over, so to speak. So how am I going to turn this skill set and this drive and hunger and tenacity that I still have into something else, which got you into, you
Right.
know, where you started training and then what eventually got you into anatomy. But,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
of all places, you're
Yeah.
going from Montreal to Miami.
Yeah. Yeah. Which is not exactly like two boring cities, but it
Yeah.
was. You know, I came to Miami to try to give it a shot to live because we used to come down here in the off season and train. And what I saw in Miami was all the guys that came down to train. And they still do. Like, because I later on I trained some guys at a performance facility. It kind of eats away at them
Yeah.
because yeah, they're training, but they're also doing other things.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking, I'm not worried about those other things. I'm not really a big party guy. I mean, don't
Yeah.
get me wrong. Of course, I've gone out, but it's like it's not a huge part of what I do. So I come down here and I start training people, and I pretty much like look. I wasn't like spending foolishly, but I spend it on things that are important, family, like just everything, you know. So I didn't have a ton of money, but I knew I needed to work, and I was training at a place. I was training myself as a member at a place called Equinox.
Yeah.
The manager came up to me. Her name was Yvonne Castarenga, and she said, "You would kill it here as a trainer." And I was like, "I like this place. I've never been in a gym this nice before, and it seems nice."
Yeah.
So I started to work, and I really started to work. Like I was working. You know, I started off like just training people for free, and I was
Yeah.
training. I mean, I was, you know, it's like 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And I'm like, it's hard being on your feet all day. Like
Yeah.
that life is hard.
Yeah.
Did that for 9.5 years. And I was training people in the middle of the day at a place called Bomarito Performance. Uh, One of my mentors, Pete Bomarito.
Yeah.
And I just honestly went to work. And there were many days where I mean, I was depressed. I wasn't feeling good. I couldn't believe like I played in the NFL. I had these stories that people wouldn't believe. And now I'm wearing a blue shirt on the floor, cleaning the weight room,
Yeah.
which, you know, I could bitch and moan about it. But to be honest, Jake, it was exactly what I needed.
Mm.
It was exactly what I needed. I needed to be humbled, and I needed to understand that there's only one way to do this, the same way you did the first one. And it doesn't happen overnight.
Yeah.
It doesn't happen overnight. So I just swallowed my pride. I remember going home, looking myself in the mirror, and like trying to give myself pep talks. Like, you got this. Like, no, you
Yeah.
got this.
Yeah.
It's fine. Do your best one day at a time. And I'm like, I do one of these numbers, and then I'm like, all right, let's go.
Yeah.
Hey, how you doing? It's good to see you. And it's like, like I remember I lived in an apartment. I'm like, I love this apartment. I think back then the apartment was like, this is in like 2006, I think. It was like $2,500 a month, which is a lot of
Mm.
money back then.
Yeah.
I was like, what am I doing in this apartment? First of all, I'm working all day. I sleep like 4 hours a night. I don't need something like this.
Yeah.
So on my lunch break, I went to this house on Michigan Avenue. It was a 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom, and it had two-car driveway. And there
Nice.
was a line of like 15 people. I saw the ad on Craigslist. And this
Michigan. You
kid,
remember Michigan and what was across the street?
it was 550 Michigan.
Nice.
It was between sixth and fifth, and
Nice.
the house is still there. And the landlord is a member of Anatomy, and I see her every day. And she always smiles, and she's a big part of my life, actually.
Oh, that's cool.
So there's a kid there named Jason Geary, and he's interviewing all these people because he has a room available.
Mm.
So I'm looking at this line. I'm like, man, I don't really want to wait here, but I do. Turns out Jason was from Indianapolis, was in the Marine Corps, And it's crazy how it keeps coming back to that. And he calls me later on that day at like 7 p.m. and he goes, "Hey, I just wanted to let you know that if you want the room, it's yours."
Mm,
And I'm like, "Yeah, I'll take it." It was like $350 for the month.
sick.
It was great. And I had two room. I had Jason and another guy, a law student from the University of Miami.
Nice.
Not very nice guys. And I asked Jason one day, I said, "Why did you give this room to me with all those people?" He said, "Mark, did you see that line?" He said, he goes, "We're in South Beach. You were the only semi-normal dude in that line. And that was a freak show." And I laughed and I said, "Yeah, it was a rough line." And he became one of my close friends. And I was just here. I just said, I'm going to put my head down and go to work. And I knew this isn't like a year or a couple years. Like, you got to go to work and develop you know, a client roster, a
Yeah.
reputation,
Yeah.
and it's going to take a long time.
A
So
personal brand.
yeah, pack a lunch, you know.
Damn.
It was wild, humbling, very humbling.
Yeah, man. I can imagine, like you're looking back on your past and everywhere you've gone through to get to where you were at that point. I have to say, like you said, to don the blue shirt and, re-rack equipment and clean the floor sometimes it's like, fuck, like I'm
Yeah,
better than this.
yeah,
Do you know who I am? Do you know where I've been? Do you know what I've done? And it's like you said, talking about looking in the mirror and saying like, it's just your ego, man. Like,
yeah, yeah.
yeah, you may have, but like nobody cares.
That's
So
right.
rather than that, take all that, channel it, and put it here, and let them see that for who you are now. Um, I remember getting out of the service, and my first job was working at a bar, and the bar follows the ladder structure of rank.
Yeah,
And all right, cool. You start at the door, checking IDs, giving wristbands, and throwing away the trash. Like, Roger that. I'll be the best fucking trash person ever. And,
yeah,
cleaning toilets. I was like, nobody cleans toilets better than the Marine. Like, come on, this is my world.
yeah.
So one of the guys was like, dude, you're really getting off on this shit. And I was like, what else are we supposed to do, man? Like, talk about how much it sucks. Like, I don't
That's
want to
right.
do that. I'd rather be a standout all-star at it.
That's right.
But same, man, like swallowing the pride and just being humble and turning humility into curiosity and curiosity into intrigue and excitement, and then using that to be like, all right, I'm just going to see
Hmm.
it this way and
Hmm.
put
Hmm.
the same cape back on to do this job. Great.
Yeah,
So you building up this 9.5 years, you built up your list of people, you built up a brand, obviously a personal brand of yourself. You started getting into some talent work. You got recognized for who you were and what you were doing. At what point of that segues you kind of to the end of or I guess our climax, to anatomy,
hmm,
like
hmm.
to where, all right, you're literally about to bring sand to the beach,
Yeah,
pun intended. It's like a
yeah,
fitness mecca that South Florida is, where there's a lot of skin and a lot of muscles and whatnot. What
yeah,
made you think that you had an idea, or that your idea was good enough?
yeah,
Kind of recurring theme too, to be able to say, I can carve out a space here that's worthwhile and that people will remember and come to.
yeah. Hmm. Well, my side of it was um, I had a close friend who was an NFL sports agent, and he saw like the way I worked and everything, and he's like, "What's your plan? What's your strategy?" And I remember telling him like, "I don't have a plan. Like, this is what I'm doing." And he's like, "But if you could do anything, what would it be?" And he'd be like, "Well, I think I have something." Meaning, like, I was working at that performance facility, and the thing that stood out to me at the performance facility was they had like all these different modalities for recovery.
Mm.
And I was like, it would be really cool. Like, everyone thinks they're an athlete, right? Which is fine. And everyone's an athlete. Call it whatever you want. I'm not trying to be disrespectful. I'm just saying, like, a lot of people in South Florida train like athletes and they want to take care of their body. So if that's an
Yeah.
athlete, so be it. That's great. I said it would be great if that was for normal people. Um, so he showed up at my door one night with a big dry erase board, and we were writing ideas down. And he goes, I'm working with this other guy who's become a friend. His name is Chris, and he has a thing that he wants to do, and maybe you guys should talk. And I'm like, sure, I'd love to talk to him. So we sit down at the Delano because Chris was running the club there. He would do the club, I think, like the club, restaurant
The
club,
beach
but
club.
Yeah, but he also did like a spa there.
Mm.
So we sit down, we have lunch on like a Saturday, and I said, look, this is what I think would work well. And then we started to have a conversation about like investors, and a guy who I've been spending a lot of time with saw me. He's the guy who saw me on the floor picking up the trash, and he would give me a hard time. He'd be like, "Why are you doing that? Who cares?" And he would kind of like test me. And I said, I'm not trying to win any awards, but I care. I said, I
Mm.
work here. I spend more time here than I do at home. You know, it's like someone's got to do it. And he appreciated that. So I had talked to him. I told him about my idea, and I told Chris, I said, I think this guy would invest, and he's a smart man, and he's done a lot of deals, and I think he can help us tremendously as well. And I remember he told me back, he said, I'm investing in you. I believe in you.
Mm.
So don't let me down. And, we've certainly been through a lot, but when he told me that, I was like, all right, like, look, it doesn't matter. Like he said he believed in me. I believe him, so I'm going to do my best. So Chris found a location. We had like a challenging lease in the beginning.
Yeah.
But at the beginning it was going to be like a social club and everything. And we kind of quickly realized that that's not, at the time, I know they have Soho House and all those things, but at the time we realized quickly that the gym fitness is about community.
Yeah.
And we adjusted a few things. And with the help of, we have a partner now whose name is David, and he's done a great job. He's very special. David was instrumental, and we adjusted some things, and then we started to gain some traction. Things changed, but it was the message was, we're not special. This isn't like uber luxury. This is a very special place. It's about people. It's about community. It's about giving great service, and culture is everything. And we started to
Yeah.
change a few things, and we just put our head down and focused, and it took some time, but we won best gym. Then we won it again. Then we won it again. Then we won it again. And it was like, okay, this is what moves the needle, is not a kettlebell or a
Yeah.
barbell.
Yeah.
It's the quality of humans that we have here. And they care. And we care about them, and they care about the community. We all care about the community, and we all care about doing something and adding value. And we happen to have a lot of those people in the same place. So everyone's been incredibly valuable, from our investor to he's not just an investor. I mean, he's helped tremendously because he has a
Mm.
lot of reps and things like that. Chris, incredible. David, incredible. I mean, I can go down the whole list with the entire team, but everyone is adding something serious, and everyone's pulling a lot of work. Everyone's working long hours, and everyone has a lot on their plate. And we're doing everything we can to maintain their reputation and continue to build something really special.
That's awesome. And you
Yeah.
just did build something new. New location
Mm-hmm.
right there on Alton,
Mm-hmm.
in the former original beach location, and just
Yeah.
opened the Doral, right?
Yeah.
Also.
Yeah. We opened Doral. We opened the new flagship at 1212.
Yeah.
And they've been going great. And we have a couple more coming soon. So
That's awesome. It's
doing
hard,
the best we can.
it's cool to be able to see a reflection of a person and their work ethic and a brand. Having been able to see that and witness it myself is a really cool thing, and a testament to you and everybody you guys have there, man. Like you said, the team is stand out, and it's always a welcoming thing to be there every time.
Yeah.
Man, I could talk to you forever, but I know you're a
Likewise,
busy
brother.
guy. Like, same
Likewise.
thing about Mark. He's always checking in on everybody, making sure the locations are there. Everybody's smiling, everybody's high energy, getting a piece, of what needs to be done and seen. So I appreciate that. And again, to your wife and to your son, thank you for giving us a little bit of your day. Again, for
Thank
being a
you.
busy guy, but for everybody else, man, Marc Megna, got to check out the biopic or the documentary, Just a Kid from Fall River, his book, Dream Big, Never Quit, the Marc Megna story. And, anything you read about Marc, or either the Megna Method podcast or markmegna.com, but we'll have it all in the show notes. But man, it's a pleasure to talk with you. It's great to see you, man.
Well, it was a pleasure talking with you. Thank you for having me on. It's an honor, and keep doing good and spreading good and pushing inspirational things, Jake. Appreciate you. Thank you very much.
Likewise, I'll see you next time at Anatomy, Marc.
All right.
And for
Thank you.
everybody else, I'm Jake Thomas. This has been another episode of Sick, Scared, and Stupid. We'll see you next time.